A couple discovers that people are being infected with an unknown alien species, but no one can figure out how. As a man investigates the matter, he eventually understands the intensity of the situation. In 1960, spacecrafts fly over Earth, while the MJ command contacts them from Earth. The spacecrafts are following a Russian craft, and they're given the go-ahead for pursuit by an organization called the Majestic 12. While flying, one of the aircrafts gets hit by another spacecraft. The pilot suddenly sees a larger spaceship and loses control of his craft. In 1961, John Loengard narrates his life story, talking about how he thought he knew everything at 24 years old. But it turned out he knew nothing. The next morning, John goes to work, where he works as a congressional aide. John is given an investigation of Project Blue Book. At the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, he's approached by Major Robert. Robert asks him why previous files are being dug up, and John tells him that his superior just wants to investigate any suspicious actions of the military. John visits the house of Betty and Barney Hill. He talks to them about their report of seeing a spaceship. The Hills talk about their experience, how they saw a spaceship, which they first believed was a light, but upon closer look, they had seen windows in the ship. Barney talks about how he had seen living beings through the window. While John records, two men listen in on the conversation, on a listening device. Later, while John drives home, the frequencies of the radio change, and he sees flashing lights behind him. He pulls off to the side and finds out that a helicopter had been chasing after his car. When he tries running away, he is attacked by three men. John asks them who they are, but they refuse to tell him. They ask him to destroy his recording and tell him that the Hills won't be testifying because they just saw a plane going off course. These men are from the Majestic 12. Despite this, he continues to investigate. John visits the organization of Majestic. He learns that Blue Book is a cover for Majestic. John also sees the corpse of an alien that the Majestic 12 captain shows him, and John is uneasy at the sight. 2 weeks later, John is recruited for Majestic 12. They take him to a field just outside of Idaho, where field markings have been spotted. They aim to send him on a mission, but he worries about Kimberly. However, he's assured that she will be fine, but he can't tell her anything. John visits the farmer, whose field had the marking. He says he's been sent by the county's extension office to investigate the markings. When the farmer doesn't seem to trust him, he says that by law, the government will have to give him money for vandalism. The man takes John to the field. John questions the farmer, asking if he's seen any lights in the sky, but the man doesn't give him a proper response. As John investigates, he finds a smaller symbol, same as the one on the field, but on a gold plate. Suddenly, the farmer drives at him in full speed, intending to kill him. He calls for backup, and workers from Majestic 12 chase after the man until his car flips over. Believing that the man is dead, they take him to a morgue. Before the workers can cut into his head to find if he has a tumor, the man moves. The worker tries to cut into his ear, but is suddenly attacked by the dead man, who has tentacles coming out of his mouth. Suddenly, a creature climbs out of the man's mouth and attacks them. John pries the creature off a man's face and shuts him in a jar. Majestic lets John know that the same creature was found 15 years ago inside the alien body they captured. Kimberly finds out about John hiding stuff and questions him. When he refuses to tell her, she says she'll be moving out. John leaves the house, and Kimberly is awoken by flower pots crashing to the ground. When she goes to check, she sees a spaceship in the sky. She closes the doors and windows. However, suddenly she's surrounded by aliens who entrap her in a cocoon and drag her away. The next morning, Kimberly seems to be in bed, and John tries waking her up, but she says she's tired. As he leaves, Kimberly gets up and notices blood on her pillow. In a meeting, the creatures are called ganglions, due to the way they attach themselves to the brain's ganglion regions. John learns that President Kennedy doesn't know about Majestic, and is shocked that he hasn't been informed. John's old boss visits Kimberly, declaring John a threat. Already shocked and stressed, she asks him to go away. He conjures up a light ball that he encourages Kimberly to touch. As Kimberly touches it, she's sucked inside. John comes home at that exact moment and notices Kimberly lying on the floor. His old boss tells him that he has her now, and John attacks his old boss. After a tussle, he ends up throwing him out of a window. Worried about Kimberly, John begs one of the workers to check his girlfriend. When his request is refused, he decides to check her himself. John gets a substance that is supposed to make the creature leave Kimberly's body and makes her drink it. He takes her to an abandoned house and tries to inject her with acetone, which has been used on other creatures. Kimberly is hesitant, and when John goes to inject her, she suddenly attacks him. However, John is able to overpower her and inject her, which leaves her unconscious. John ties her up, and when Kimberly awakes, she screams at John to let her go. Kimberly suddenly spits out the creature from her body, and John carries her to the car. John tries to quit the Majestic 12, but is told he can never quit. Kimberly recovers in a week, and the two believe that they need to tell the president about Majestic 12. The two sneaks into the captain's house. While Kimberly distracts his wife, John steals the necklace that the captain always wears. John collects evidence of Majestic 12 and the alien species known as the Hive, which Kimberly takes to the White House. They provide the president with the evidence, and John receives an invite from the president's brother, Robert Kennedy, to speak. Robert informs John that they have seen his evidence and believe him. However, he asks him to stay in Majestic to get inside information. Meanwhile, the captain watches John through a screen, knowing that John has given evidence of the aliens. John and Kimberly return home to find their house has been trashed. He notices agents coming up to the apartment, and John hides. When they break in, John attacks them and is eventually able to escape with Kimberly. At a motel, they find out that the president had been assassinated. John and Kimberly become wanted people on the run. In 1947, outside the Roswell Army Air Base, the soldiers see a blur streak in the sky. All of the tracking devices fail, and the soldiers see a spaceship above them as they look on in shock. In 1963, John and Kimberly, still on the run, park their car and shoot at it to make it look like they were shot at. John contacts Robert Kennedy, and Robert asks him to collect the evidence before it can be stolen. John visits Jesse Marcel, who has the evidence safe with him. Jesse asks John how he's involved in this situation, and he confesses that he had given the evidence to the president. Jesse hands him the evidence and asks him to leave. However, John insists that Jesse tell him what happened in 1947. Jesse explains that the aliens had contacted Earth. However, the army had begun shooting at the ship, causing casualties. Kimberly informs John that they've been followed, and he manages to escape the apartment. Jesse stays back, and Majestic 12 captures him. They aim to search his apartment, and the captain interrogates Jesse. Jesse refuses to reveal anything and is threatened by the captain, but he remains quiet. While looking for Jesse, Kimberly discovers that the alien is present inside two Majestic 12 agents, and they plan to kill a man called Oswald. John informs the captain, who later hears that Oswald has been assassinated. He traps one of them in a room, forcing the alien out of him, but tries to figure out who the third shooter was. Unfortunately, he's only told, "This is just the beginning." John is arrested by the military. He speaks to the captain and asks for his version of events. He tells John about how the aliens had displayed a metal sheet in front of the president and asked him for unconditional surrender. The president had ordered the attack after listening to the captain, who said the aliens were bluffing. In January 1964, Kimberly has visions of an astronaut while she tries to sleep. The U.S. plans to launch a rocket into space for a secret mission. Later, while John is driving, Kimberly draws the same pattern that John had seen in the field. He asks her where she'd seen it, but she says it was just in her head. Kimberly reveals that she's been seeing an astronaut in her visions. She tells John that she has to go help him. Kim sees the same astronaut in a bar and follows him. Although they've never met in real life, the man sees to recognize her as well. He gives her his address as he leaves. John tries to talk Kimberly out of meeting the man, saying that he had been with Majestic, and this could be a trap. However, she's insistent that she feels like it's not. Kimberly talks to the guy and learns about how the astronauts had seen the ship. He tells them how they had suddenly seen lights, and 2 hours later, they had found themselves on the other side of the planet, with no recollection of the 2 hours. Kimberly believes that somehow she had been up in space with the man. They visit a hypnotist, who asks her to come into hypnosis so they can know what actually happened. She agrees to do it. Kimberly relives the scene from her bedroom when she was taken hostage by the aliens. She panics, and she talks about how she sees herself in an unknown room with the aliens. She talks about how she sees the astronaut next to her and how the Hive rejected him, saying he wasn't right for them. She recounts how they put the creature inside of her. As she comes out of hypnosis, John hugs her. Later, Kimberly remembers more details and tells John that there had been 2 astronauts and the other one had been implanted with the creature. They warn the captain about what they've found. The launch is stopped just in time before more damage can be done. In February 1964, the Beatles show up to play in the Ed Sullivan Show. The scientist at Majestic 12 injects a creature with the blood of someone who was rejected by the Hive, and the creature explodes. John and Kimberly try to find a guy named Christopher, but are told by a neighbor that Christopher died. They sneak into a house and find a flyer that promotes participating in research. They take the flyer and sneak out just in time as the owners come back. John and Kimberly visit the place where the research is taking place and take part in it. They see some videos on TV related to marketing tactics. However, they notice that the videos have subliminal messages and participants are being impacted. Kimberly and another participant are impacted, and while returning back, Kimberly hears the Beatles music and sees images that she had seen in the videos. She almost leaves the car while it's driving, scaring John. John isn't impacted, but he believes Kimberly when she says those who had been abducted would be impacted. They're suddenly attacked by a Majestic 12 agent following them, but Kimberly is able to knock the man out. They tie him up and try to understand what the Hive is planning, but they don't get any answers. John visits Robert Kennedy, but is surrounded by Majestic 12 agents. The agents visit the people who conducted the experiment and kill the woman, while the man escapes. While discussing the circumstances, they learn that the Hive plans to cause self-destruction in people through the subliminal messages shown on the broadcast of the Beatles concert. At the Sullivan studio, John and Kimberly find the cable to stop the broadcast from being displayed. The Beatles begin playing, and while fans cheer, some see the visuals and attempt to kill themselves. John and Kimberly are able to stop the broadcast, preventing thousands of people from killing themselves. John and Kimberly go to Las Vegas, hoping to find a lead and a little luck. Kimberly decides to get a job so the two can continue their investigation. Kimberly tells John that she hears a buzzing sound when she walks by a certain table. Kimberly's boss gives them a room to settle in, while their car is getting ready. Kimberly worries that the creature is growing inside her still, but John reassures her. They're suddenly captured by people who take them out of their room. The two meet Howard Hughes, who knows about Majestic 12. He asks Kimberly to pretend to be a part of the Hive so they can get inside information about the telepathic abilities of the infected people. Kimberly pretends to be part of the Majestic 12 and succeeds at gaining their trust. A waitress tells John about Dreamland, a place where the infected people go often. He asks Howard, and he tells him that Dreamland is actually Area 51, where the group is digging a tunnel. Worried about Kimberly, John tries to stop her, but is led back to his room forcefully. Kimberly finds out that a rogue Majestic 12 agent is in the same car as her. John is tied in his room, but the waitress eventually frees him. John goes to save Kimberly with the waitress. Meanwhile, Kimberly is tied up, and the agent puts creatures on her skin. Meanwhile, John reaches the area, and a truck drives toward the wall, and Howard and his men shoot at it. The man in the truck dies, and John drives the truck right into the wall, passing through it easily. Majestic 12 shoot at the truck, but John runs the agent over. He is able to save Kimberly. When a man is about to shoot at John, Kimberly pours the jar of creatures on him. John and Kimberly are saved by police officers, and Howard Hughes is arrested for other crimes. John's car has been fixed, and they escape, thinking about what the Hive had been planning. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.